What is up, everybody? This is the Junkyard Dawgcast. I'm Jake Rowe with Dawgs 24/7. With me, Kip Adams and Rusty Mansell, also of Dawgs 24/7. We're live on YouTube. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get updates on every time we do this. We definitely invite you to do that. Become a part of what we're doing here. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and we're really just getting started in a lot of ways. But today's episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast, we're going to talk about a little about Georgia's win over Vanderbilt 62-0. I got a chance to do that after the show the other night from the hotel. Actually, I had to race over there and knock it out from there. That was pretty fun. And then we're going to look ahead to Arkansas. We're going to talk about Kirby Smart's Monday press conference and get to all of that. But Rusty and Kip, and Rusty, I guess I'll start with you like always. Any takeaways from the Georgia Vanderbilt game, 62-0? I mean, it was never close.
No, it was a don't want to rub salt in the wounds. We have a good buddy that works there now, Barton. I traded some texts with him on Saturday afternoon and traded some texts on this morning. And, Georgia is impressive. They're elite defense and what they did, it was just Jake, we don't have to waste time. It was a mismatch from the minute that they showed up, and it was 35-0. I'm not sure that it's correct, but I heard that the spread in the first quarter was 7.5 Georgia. It was 35-0 before I really got into my popcorn. It was that quick. It just really, you just hope to come out of that thing healthy, get some guys some reps and move on, because right now Vandy's in a bad spot in the SEC.
I was sitting beside a Washington football team scout who told me before the game, when I asked him, I was like, hey, who are you here to kind of look at? Who you got your eye on? He goes, well, basically everybody from Georgia. And he just kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, see, that's why I'm looking at everybody from Georgia. I told him it probably wasn't the best barometer, best measuring stick for Georgia there. But, yeah, completely overmatched. Anytime you score 35 points in the first quarter, Vandy gave him some help. But, it would have been 21 or 28-0 in the first quarter, one or the other, without that help. Kip, what did you see there in that first quarter that maybe gave you an impression on this game?
I think kind of the one positive you can kind of take from this, not that there are a lot of negatives, but Georgia continues to come out quick. They're starting out, firing on all cylinders. They have yet to really come out there and really look like, the effort and the focus are issues. And obviously, as we looked ahead to another noon kickoff, that's something you could take, that they know how to play at that time of the day. And overall, this is just one of those games where you want to come out as healthy as possible and get as many guys reps as you can and experience. And I think overall Georgia was able to do that. And then, getting kind of a different look in there whenever they had the switch there at quarterback. You bring in a guy like Mike Wright who can run a little bit, and that gives Georgia a different look, something that obviously, again, as we look ahead to the Razorbacks, kind of helps them out a little bit as far as just getting that experience of having to track down a quarterback who knows how to run the ball.
That's a good point. That actually really and truly, if you think about it, is Georgia's kind of first full-fledged dual threat quarterback, maybe the first quarterback they've played this year that was maybe ahead of his, that his legs were ahead of his arm. Luke Doty, you could make that argument there, very athletic kid, but also kind of a smaller guy, not necessarily that big, physical type, the guy that you're really scared of running in the open field. Mike Wright may have gave him a little bit of a look ahead there, but KJ Jefferson's going to be a different cat altogether, and we're going to get into that a little bit. All right, moving on from the Vanderbilt game, let's talk about Kirby Smart's press conference today. And Rusty, he says Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington are full go. What do you think?
That means they're fully released to practice, able to get in there and thud up and have some pad and stuff. But I would caution people a little bit with that. There's a difference in working out and jogging on the side than actually practice shape. Hitting people and testing out those injuries and coming back and those types of things. It takes a little bit. I do expect both guys to play this weekend. I don't think that you're going to see a ton of Tyke Smith this game. I do think he'll play. But I think Darnell Washington's a guy with his physicality that you could put him in probably a little bit more, have more packages there. But certainly with the way Brock Bowers is playing right now, a lot of focus on Brock Bowers. Fitzpatrick comes in, he's physical as well. But you look at Darnell Washington, I think he's going to be a huge piece of the puzzle for Georgia coming back. I think that Tyke Smith's a guy I'm very interested how they use him moving forward. I think he's they went and got him for a reason. They needed him. But with Latavius Brini playing the way he is right now, it's a good situation for Georgia. We'll have some good competition there. It adds more depth. I just think caution people that's automatically think, hey, they're back. I mean, they're not just back. They're back at practice. Can they get into game shape, and how quick they get into game shape will dictate the number of reps those guys get on Saturday versus Arkansas.
Well, I found it really interesting just over the summer when Kirby Smart was like, hey, Tyke Smith's coming from a very different defense. They do things a lot differently than Georgia did. They did them at West Virginia a lot differently than Georgia is doing them now. And he missed a lot of reps, man. I mean, he missed, a couple, 2 or 3 weeks of preseason camp. He's missed a few weeks of practice. Now, I think he's going to have to play catch up mentally and physically. Mentally, I'm just going to, kind of get it together there. But mentally and physically, he's going to, miss a lot of reps there. But Darnell Washington's a guy, I think, obviously he knows the offense a little bit already. He kind of understands what to do and knows a lot about what's going on there. He missed some reps too, and he's going to have to play some catch up. But, I definitely agree with you there as far as one maybe being a little bit more prepared than the other to play. Kip, who do you think Georgia needs more right now, Washington or Tyke Smith?
I think, it's tough to say they need either one of them just because of the level of play they've gotten out of both positions so far. If Tyke Smith was ready, I think it'd really help him out a lot with just being able to kind of give the opposing offenses a different look back there schematically. I think that when you look at Kendall Browse and what that offense tries to do at Arkansas, they try to find that weak spot and expose it and attack it. And if you're able to add a guy like Tyke Smith into that defense, it's just another skill set that you can kind of throw out there that makes it a little bit more difficult for them to actually pinpoint and find anyone. We saw Keely Ringo get out there and get a start and get even more experience under his belt. It's becoming more difficult now maybe for opposing offenses to kind of find a DB in Georgia secondary to pick on because every week they're getting more experience. With Darnell Washington, I think it kind of reminds me of Jermaine Burton at the beginning of the year. He came back and just was not completely in playing shape yet. And he kind of had to, get back out there and just get those reps, whether it's in the game and practice, and just kind of get back into season playing shape. And you saw, him kind of get back into it and improve his quality of play in each week after that season opener. But you could kind of tell with Jermaine Burton, he's having to, get rid of the rust a little bit and just get back into full playing shape. And I mean, when you're 6'7", if he's coming out there 265, 270 pounds, I mean, there's a chance that he might have a little bit of that off-season weight as well if he hasn't been able to get out there as much and practice. So, the Darnell Washington we saw last year where it just looked like he was towering over defenders and able to move it, just a rare combination of size and speed. It might be a week or two before we see that version of Darnell, but still a 6'7" pass catcher with the group they already have out there, with what Brock's doing. I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt getting either one of them back regardless. I just think we might be a week or two from getting either one of them just completely out there and in the rotation. But if you get 10, 15 snaps out of either one of them, it's still an added bonus to both sides of the ball. And I think, there's a chance either one of them can make a big play this week because, I mean, this is a big-time matchup Georgia has on its hands.
I want to give our guy Derek Durham a shout-out real quick. He's always talking to us here on the show. I love it. Rusty, was that what you were going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, you see those guys. We see your comments and everything. I will just say this. I had several people ask me social media-wise. Had people ask me on text messages. I see people asking here in the comment section, will the game time be moved? It's not moved. Once they set that game time, that's the reason that CBS can flex a game from just like they flex Georgia Auburn. You'll know 6 or 7 days out, and it's locked in. You start doing travel time, TV time, logistics time. Nobody here thinks that Georgia Arkansas should be at noon. I can tell you, Georgia and Arkansas is at noon, no matter what. It's going to be at noon on Saturday, and game day will be there. So get yourself ready. It's early, but it is going to be a noon game time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That is 100% the case. Let's get to a couple other things from Kirby's presser today. One of them being more injury stuff, which is Arian Smith battling a shin contusion. Listen, I saw this kid practice on Monday of last week, and he was limping. He was limping noticeably. I mean, it wasn't one of those things where he was barely moving, but you could tell there was a hitch in his giddy up there. Rusty, how much would it mean for this offense to kind of get him back at this point in the season? Obviously, they got through the last two, to the tune of 102-13. So they made it through the last couple of games without him, but it's getting to the point of the schedule where it seems like they'd really benefit from getting Arian Smith back.
I'll give you a little insight on this one. You know who recruited Arian Smith to Georgia? It's Scott Fountain. Scott Fountain recruited Jalen Carter and Arian Smith, landed both of those guys for Georgia. Well, Scott Fountain is now the special teams coach at Arkansas. So not only does Scott Fountain know, hey, we got to prepare for Jalen Carter, but we got to prepare for a guy that is one of the fastest, if not the fastest football player, track speed wise in the country. He got verified times at 10-100. So when you have a player like that, it gets on the field. It makes eyes start going toward him because at any second he can knock the top off of coverage literally. So it would be big to get him back this week, even if he doesn't start, because when he's on the field, you have to be aware of him at all times and what he can do, in the vertical passing game, because he can take off and run by you. And there's nothing you can do about it if you don't get your hands on this guy. So, I think he's got to step his game up a little more. But right now, the biggest thing with Arian is he's just been so banged up from here and there. Make a touchdown and, he got banged up again. So you really want to see him get back and get healthy. But I know that Arkansas staff, specifically Scott Fountain, who is the lead recruiter on both of those players for the University of Georgia, that they'll be aware of Arian Smith at all times when he's on the field.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to point out here is Kirby also said, and he said this about Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington too, they left them behind so that they could work out and recover. And apparently that worked out for all three of those guys, Arian Smith, Tyke Smith, and Darnell Washington, because all of them got good recovery. All of them are hopeful, if not probable, for this week against Arkansas, and they're going to need them. Kip, what do you think? Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint also dealing with an injury, not necessarily sure, what he's dealing with there. I hate to kind of pose a comparative question like this to you, but if you had a choice between getting Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint back or getting Arian Smith back, who would you pick?
Wow, that's a tough one right there. I think, Marcus Rosemy's got kind of a little bit of a do it all kind of skill set that he can help you out in a number of ways. We've talked about Arian Smith. We talked about him all offseason, just that he has that different gear and that ability to stretch the field. I like to think that just because Arian has that different skill set that really no one else on the team has, you'd like to see, can JT Daniels overthrow this kid? What kind of deep ball can we actually see? And if you have a guy like that on the field, I just think it makes everything just that much easier for the rest of the offense. So definitely Arian Smith, it's kind of similar to just how Karis Jackson's first 2 years in Athens went. You just stay on the field. And obviously we saw last year, once Karis was able to stay healthy, he had a big time season and pushed George Pickens for, being the leading receiver for most of the season. And that just kind of makes everything stand out to me about what JT Daniels has been able to do so far. He's got 2 true freshmen, a redshirt freshman, and a sophomore as his top 4 pass catchers so far this year, with Brock Bowers, Jermaine Burton, A.D. Mitchell, and Lab McConkey. That being your top 4 weapons right there, I just think that, it just kind of gives an added perspective to just, not just how deep the room is, how young this pass catching room is, and just how well, Todd Monken and Cortez Hankin have been able to get these guys going. First and second year players, a very, very young group that JT's working with. And we keep kind of saying it every week. They're going to continue to get healthy. They're going to get Karis Jackson out there more. If they get Arian Smith, if Blaylock's back, Marcus Rosemy as well. This is becoming a deep, deep receiver room. And so I think, it's just going to get, that much more explosive. If they get this full unit out there, they're going to be able to rotate 6 to 8 guys out there who really, really, really bring a lot of production to this offense. And it's what, as we've said, it's what Georgia fans have been waiting to see, and they're finally kind of seeing, all the fruits of Georgia's recruiting as far as that offensive side of the ball is concerned.
It's break time, guys. Let's go into one of those real quick. And on the side, we're going to talk about Arkansas. All right, Georgia, Arkansas. It's an 18-point spread. Arkansas is plus 18. Kip, has it moved since then? You normally do a pretty good job keeping up with it.
Well, it moved to 18.5, and you still have, I think, Circus Sports and a couple other outlets actually have it as 19. So it's interesting where the money's going. You kind of, we all expect it to be 5 to 6. Closer to 10. 9 to 10 when this thing opened. It opened at 18 and it still moved up. It has not. I haven't seen it go below 18, but I've seen it go 18.5 and 19. So it's definitely an eye opener. Vegas knows something. Obviously, if they're going to put the number like that and it's still going up, it's definitely not what we expected.
There's a lot of different things that happen. There's a lot of different trends, and some of them contradict each other. Some of them, some of these sayings contradict each other. But I'll tell you this, anytime a betting line is significantly more than I thought it would be, you're looking at a top 10 game and one team's favored by this much, it screams sucker bet. It screams, and listen, I don't know if Georgia's going to come out here and cover that 18 or cover that 19, but that was my immediate reaction when I saw that line. Rusty, what was yours?
I told Kip last night, I thought he sent me that text. I was like, what? I would have thought 9.5, maybe 10, but 18.5, 19 points. Whew, that makes you, I was talking on the Ask Rusty chat on the Junkyard today. I was like, I can tell you that somebody knows something that we all don't, and we watch football for a living. So I don't know if Arkansas's got somebody hurt, if KJ Jefferson's not expected to play. I have no clue. But something to me is not adding up because I can't see this thing as an 18, 19-point game right now.
You think it could just be a beat-up football team, just be kind of one of those what they had to expend last week against A&M and then having to kind of hit the road for their first true road test of the season? You think maybe that's – obviously that plays into it, but yes. I don't know. I didn't get the impression from watching that game Saturday that, obviously Treylon Burks got a little dinged up too, but I didn't get the impression that Jefferson or Burks was going to be out.
I don't think so either, but it just – look, they have those big buildings out there for a reason because they know things that we don't, and I can't see it. Somebody asked me which way I'd be leaning. That kind of spread tends to tell me not to touch it because something I don't know is a variable in here. And this is one of those games we'll find out a little more because we know Texas has beaten two really, really good teams. And Georgia beat a Clemson team early that's struggling, let's be honest with you. So it doesn't take away from anything from that win. But, we do know Arkansas has beat two really good football teams, and they beat them up physically. So we'll know more about both come Sunday. But I'll tell you right now, I don't think I'm going to touch this game either way.
Yeah, no doubt. And, Sam Pittman's done an incredible job, obviously. I do, my early thought on this game is Georgia, very tough matchup for Arkansas. Just the matchup itself. And, Kirby said today, he said, listen, this is not the same Arkansas Georgia played last year. And I agree with him. I think he's very much right on that. I think they're a bigger, more physical football team. But bigger, more physical is a tough way to try and beat Georgia. And, that's just kind of how I look at it. We'll see kind of how it works out. But Kip, what were your thoughts on that spread? You're the one that kind of writes that for us every Sunday. when the spread comes out. When you were writing that story, what was kind of the thought rolling through your head?
That they don't respect Arkansas yet. That they're basically saying, prove it to us. Even though right now the question is, has Georgia been tested? That's what we're trying to discuss and break down and figure out. Has Georgia really been punched in the mouth yet this year? They thought that first game, all eyes were on that matchup. It doesn't have that same, it doesn't have that same buzz now as it once did. And Arkansas, on the flip side, has two of the best wins of the season so far. So that's why for us, normally you see Arkansas, you see that kind of spread, it's not too, abnormal. But we all know that Sam Pittman has that team playing some of the best football it's played in a long time. And so I don't know what Vegas knows that we don't, but it seems like this is one of those games where it's going to be a line of scrimmage battle. It's going to be strength on strength with that. And I expect it to be a pretty quick game. I think that you're going to go into halftime at 105, 130, and this game's going to be over quickly because I just think that it's going to be a ground game battle. And it's going to be a lot closer than what that spread makes it seem, just because I really like Arkansas's defensive line. I really like what Barry Odom has them, the schematically, how they've played so far. I am super interested to see if they continue to try to do what they've done so far this year against Georgia, because it's their strength on Georgia's strength so far. And we've been waiting to see when Georgia is going to kind of turn to the ground game, but they haven't had to, because teams continue for some reason to put 8 and 9 in the box and make Georgia throw the ball. And I mean, they've loved doing that. Georgia's had no issue doing that. And this seems like a different matchup in that aspect. So which coordinator is going to be more stubborn and stick to that original game plan, and which one's going to have to adjust when not everything that they're used to seeing is there? That's kind of what I'm looking to see in this game. And yeah, even on the board, I mean, Jake, you and I got asked about whether Georgia was going to hit 35 points, all the yards, over unders, and we both kind of said, we both went with the unders on things, and we got kind of questioned for that. But this does not seem like this is not the same kind of matchup that Georgia's had the last couple of weeks. I mean, UAB, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, those are just different teams as far as how well they're playing and what Sam Pittman has them doing in Arkansas right now. This tells me that, that October is going to start off with a big test. I mean, it's not the matchup everyone was discussing all off season. I mean, he has them going, in year 2. I mean, Kirby's year 2. He has them on that. He's got the same culture he's developing there in Arkansas. And I mean, they're going to come in confident. They know that they can beat a really quality team. And if anyone knows, Kirby, it's going to be Sam Pittman. So I just think that there are a lot of aspects of this game that are extremely, extremely interesting to me. I just don't think that anyone can overlook this team. This is kind of that for them. I mean, this is the game where they have an opportunity to kind of put themselves, on the map even more. And I mean, the fact that it's a noon game is irrelevant now. There's no trap game now. Like, Kirby's got to have these guys focused and ready to come out, because this is going to be, I mean, at this point, this is their best opponent that they've played so far, based on what we've seen so far through 4 games. So, yeah, the line, the fact that the line is pushing 20 is just completely shocking to me, based on just how everything lines up. Georgia's got the better team, but this is no pushover.
No doubt about it. And Kirby Smart knows that too. And Rusty, want to end with this. That's why he challenged Georgia fans to show up early and to be loud and to be elite for Saturday. I mean, obviously, I think we all know the answer to this. Will they respond? And I mean, with game day in town, absolutely.
Yeah, this, I have no hesitation that Georgia will be bonkers Saturday game day there. The buzz, you look at preseason schedule, you look at the schedule in the preseason, you're not thinking kind of Arkansas is that game, maybe Kentucky, the big home game, but they'll be a good opponent. But this is clearly right now on paper, this is going to be the home game of the year. It's a top 10 matchup in Athens, and it just so happens to be early, whether you like it or not. I certainly said it on the last couple podcasts. That South Carolina game at night it really surprised me. I mean, it had some serious energy. I expect the same on Saturday. I'm kind of working on the recruit visit list right now, and kind of surprised at some guys that have already confirmed. We'll put that out more, this week on Dawgs 247, who we're expecting in town. But a lot of things kind of helped with a top 10 team now. Arkansas, it gets everybody's attention, and that gets recruits there a little bit better than I thought. It's certainly a noon game is not ideal for those kids to travel. So, a lot of them have to get up 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to get there after playing a game the night before. But this is a big game. All eyes of the country on this one with game day there. Certainly some big ones, Alabama, Ole Miss, a few others, but Georgia, Arkansas is up there with the rest of them. It's top 10 game in the country, and I certainly expect that crowd to be loud and be there early.
No doubt about it. If there's going to be some buzz in Athens, it's going to be a top 10 showdown between the hedges, and we'll have it covered for you. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. We're going to do a mailbag, going to maybe talk a little bit of recruiting, talk about maybe the happenings between now and Wednesday, because this is the Georgia beat, and God knows anything could happen. But for this episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast, I'm Jake Rowe with Dawgs 24/7. They're Kip Adams and Rusty Mansell from the same place, and y'all take it easy.